Hey nerds! Yes, I got a haircut. Thank you for noticing. So, gonna close this window so the neighbors don't hear me vlogging. So this week I'm doing a Q&A. You guys asked a whole bunch of really cool questions in the comments of the last video, so we'll just get right to it. My friend Jacob says, talk about your first experience with a cappella music. My first experience with a cappella music was, I think my sophomore year of high school. I remember this distinctly. It was New Year's Eve, and I was home sick. My mom told me that she'd recorded this show that she'd seen, she thought maybe I'd like, and that I should just watch it if I didn't know what else to do. So here I am, like on the couch, feeling awful, and I turn on the first season of NBC's The Sing-Off. That show changed my life, for sure. It was so cool. It was like American Idol, but for like a cappella groups, and I had sung in my school choir at high school, but this was totally different. There was like contemporary music, and there was this beatboxing, and I'd never heard of this before, this like drumming with your mouth stuff. It was just too cool. And that just began my trajectory into what I now use all of my free time with, which is making funny noises into a microphone or listening to other people do the same. Gerardo says, which is your favorite Pokemon? My favorite Pokemon fluctuates, but it's usually Tyranitar or Garchomp sometimes. I don't actually know. There's too many that are good. And also, how did you learn to make all the noises you use in your covers? So when I was growing up, I lived in a town in Northern California called Redding, and it gets unbelievably hot during the summers and unbelievably cold during the winters. So regularly doing like outdoorsy activities isn't really all that feasible. And my parents also didn't want me to play video games all the time, so I wasn't allowed to have a gaming system. I had a Game Boy Color, but that's like it. As a result, I was kind of left to my own devices a lot about like how to entertain myself, and just kind of left to my boredom. And I played piano, and we had a piano in our house, and I'd play it for hours and hours a day, and I developed the skill for just kind of playing by ear, like being able to play songs I'd heard on the radio, just by like kind of fiddling around on the piano for a few minutes. But there was always parts missing, you know, there wasn't like the drum or like the guitar or the vocals or whatever, so I would just kind of like make it up and like throw them in there. And that just kind of was a predecessor to learning how to like do instrument mimicking or like beatboxing. So that's probably how I kind of got started with it. Nowadays, it's a lot of me just kind of sitting in my room and making funny noises until I think of something that sounds kind of cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool. My good friend Vin says, have you ever left the United States for a holiday? And if not, which would be your number one destination you'd like to visit? I have left the United States before twice. Once to go to Costa Rica with my high school choir, and once with my family to go to Jamaica this past summer. Both of those trips were really, really cool. I learned a lot about other cultures by going to them, because if you kind of leave the little touristy areas, you get like a real taste of what other countries outside of the US are like, and it was really, really interesting. To answer the other part of the question, where would I like to go? What's my number one? Probably Fjordland in New Zealand. The place is amazingly beautiful. Lollipop asks, favorite book? Probably The Chronicles of Narnia. I remember being sick. I do all my cool things when I'm sick, huh? I remember being sick in like 5th or 6th grade for like a week, and I laid in bed and read all 7 of the series in 7 days. DJ Craft X says, which do you prefer, Legend of Korra or Avatar: The Last Airbender? Between those two series, I'd actually probably prefer Legend of Korra. The original series is amazing and does a great job of like capturing my attention, and has really, really great long story arcs, and tickles my nostalgia gland a lot. Nostalgia gland. Whatever. But I think the new series is very modern. The music and actual just design of the show is top notch. Whenever I watch it, although it isn't the same as the original, I think I prefer it as a series. Awkwardly, Cassie says, how did you get into music, and how did you discover you could sing or beatbox? I got into music when I was about 4 years old, and my parents had the Elmo's World soundtrack on in the car all the time, and I had a song that was my favorite, which I think was just like the theme song. Elmo's World. And I would just ask them to play it like over and over again. My parents say that I sung along at the age of like 3 or 4, like all the time. So I've just kind of always been singing, and I started taking piano lessons when I was 6 years old, and that contributed to my classical music knowledge, whereas I've always just kind of sung, never really had that many formal lessons, but I've been in a few choirs and whatnot, and so I've just kind of been involved in music and had a musical family my whole life. Beatboxing I discovered that I could do after watching the sing-off that one time a few years ago and just like trying to figure it out. I remember sitting on the couch or like watching it and being like, what? And just progressed for like years until right now. You might think I'm joking, but beatboxing is quite literally just making like fart noises until they don't sound bad anymore. The Pumpkin Ninjas says, what sort of editing do you use and how can other people who are interested in acapella get started? Great question. I use 3 programs in any given video usually to get it from idea into actual upload. The 3 programs that I use are Noteflight, which is a browser-based arrangement software, Pro Tools 12, and Adobe Premiere Pro 6. So it's my arrangement software, my audio recording, editing, and mixing software, and then my video software. You don't have to use those exact 3. There is Sibelius for arranging, or you can use like FL Studio or Adobe Audition for audio. And then for video, you can use iMovie or Final Cut. You can really use whatever programs you're familiar with, but those are the 3 that I use in particular. Last question is from Catherine Pitcher. She said, would you rather give up your foot or all electronics? Well, I mean, I'd like to say that this is a hard question, but I would totally give up my foot. Are you serious? Like, yeah, I can't really walk, but like if I give up my left foot, I can still drive, and I can either have crutches or a prosthetic limb, so I'm not exactly gonna cry about my foot being gone unless I can't wear swaggy shoes anymore. But if I can't use any electronics, like just any that means I can't use this light or this camera or my watch or my phone or my computer, like a TV, like, oh my gosh, no way. Like, yeah, I'd give up my foot. Wow, what does that say about me? Anyways, y'all, thanks so much for tuning in to this week's vlog. Go ahead and leave a comment what you thought of this video and if there's any sort of subjects you really want me to talk about. See y'all next week. Bye!